Welcome back to another episode of Strife's Talking Points, where I try to make sense out of the world because it is just a crazy, crazy place, and you really can't find out any information except by deep diving, going through multiple different sources. Before I begin, I would like to say please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, or feel free to dislike the video because I'm not in charge of you. I'm just trying to make sense out of this crazy, crazy world. What you see pictured in front of you is a distance picture of one of the Japanese tankers that was sabotaged, attacked, blown up, whatever, in the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. is blaming Iran. Iran is saying they didn't do it, and the U.S. is held fast on this idea that Iranians attacked. We're going to go first to a story from NBC out this morning. Japanese tanker owner contradicts U.S. official over explosives used in Gulf of Oman attack. The owner of the Kokuka Courageous says something had flown at the ship despite U.S. officials' claims. The Japanese owner of the tanker attacked in the Gulf of Oman claimed Friday that it was struck by a flying projectile, contradicting reports by U.S. officials and the military on the source of the blast. U.S. Central Command said the two vessels were hit by a limpet mine, which is attached at the boats at or below the waterline using magnets. The U.S. Central Command released video claimed to show the Iranian Revolutionary Guard patrol boat removing an exploded mine from one of the tankers, the Courageous. We're going to cut out the first word. By Friday morning, the owner of the 560-foot Courageous said the sailors saw something flying toward the vessel just before the explosion, and the impact was well above the waterline. So now, the people on the boat and the actual boat owners are contradicting what the U.S. government is saying. And here we go. We received reports that something flew towards the ship and that said Yutaka Katada, president of Kokuwa Sengo Co., and at a press conference, the place where the projectile landed was significantly higher than the level of the water, so we're absolutely sure it wasn't a torpedo. I do not think there was a bomb or an object attached to that side of the ship. U.S. officials have not yet responded to the claims, but President Donald Trump reiterated the U.S. allegations that Iran was behind the attack, telling Fox News the incident had Iran written all over it. Now, this is also from Reuters, where they're discussing two flying objects damaged Japanese tanker owned by Kokuka Sengo in an attack on Thursday in the Gulf of Oman, but there was no damage to the cargo of methanol, the company president said on Friday. The Courageous is now sailing towards the port of Khor Fakkan in the United Arab Emirates, with the crew having returned to the ship after evacuating because of the incident. Kokuka President Yatuka Katara told the press conference it was being escorted by U.S. Navy. He said, the crew told us something came flying at the ship and they found a hole. Some of the crew witnessed a second shot. Now, from that, and from the current rhetoric coming out of the government around the world, that we're currently in this, hate to say it, military-industrial complex where you're starting to see a lot of push towards war, towards invasion. You currently in the U.S. is right now sanctioning Venezuela. There's an active fight going on in Yemen, in Syria. And with all the U.S. ordnance and such in the Middle East, you're seeing what I believe is a coordinated push towards Iran. Don't know if Iran did it, but if the people on the boat said something came flying at them and the U.S. is saying, no, it's torpedoes, no, it's a mine, and then, of course, you have this video. I pulled this up to look at it. This is the video. This is on CNN. Feel free to go there and watch the content. I use CNN as a reference sometimes, generally to take apart a story, not so much to understand a story, because CNN, I don't think, is journalists anymore. I just believe they're talking heads. They're not doing any research, which can be found pretty quickly. Now, was released, I believe this is now 2 days ago. The U.S. military released a video in which it says implicates Iran in the attack in the Gulf of Oman. They're saying this is definitively the Iranians. This is the Iranian ship. This is the Iranian Royal Guard or Islamic Guard. I can't remember what it's called. And what you can see is a small ship against a large ship, people on it, and they're doing something with the side of it. They say it appears to show an Iranian Navy ship removing an unexploded mine from a Japanese boat. Now, for context here, if you're listening to this, you really can't see anything. All you can see are a couple of people up next to a large boat, and that's really all you see. The U.S. is saying that this is clear and present evidence that they were removing unexploded mines from the side of the ship. Now, it does to me look like they're doing something under. However, U.S. Secretary, I'm just reading it. U.S. Secretary Mike Pompeo blamed Iran for the attack on 2 tankers on June 13th, and they blamed them almost immediately. There was reports of 2 tankers. U.S. says it's Iran, and that's it. I mean, the U.S. is holding the stance, and there's really, from what I'm going through and what I'm looking at, there's really no evidence either way. Source: International Association of Independent Tanker Owners. The boats were hit at or below the waterline in close proximity to the engine room. Now, if you just were listening, you heard the Japanese people saying, or well above the waterline, they saw something flying at the ship, meaning it was some type of projectile. Could be a drone flown into the side of the ship to explode. Maybe that drone then got close to the water. I don't know. But if witnesses at the scene are saying, hey, this occurred in this way, and the U.S. is saying, no, it's this, I would generally lean towards the people who are actual witnesses of it and disregard the propaganda. Now, here's a better video here where you can see the ship. This looks like a very small naval vessel. There's a half dozen or a dozen crew on the front of it, and they are up next to a much larger tanker ship. Whether it's the Japanese ship or not, I don't know. U.S. defense officials believe Iranians were trying to remove evidence of their involvement. The Iranian mission to the UN rejects the U.S. claim. Now, this is where it gets a little odd, because in this area with this attack, the U.S. naval presence were all over the place. They were certainly would have had someone guarding, someone watching the entire time, and Iranians would know this, so I don't know what this ship would represent. It is just a small boat. It appears to have a couple of riggings on the back. I'm not sure if that would be the traditional 4 outboard motors, but it's just this small ship up next to a tanker of some kind. And from what I've seen, there are no clear markings visible on either. They're just showing the drone feed, and then of course, American media will only follow one way. Here's the Wall Street Journal, and you don't even have to see the full article, because most people just read the headlines. The Iranian tanker attacks. Looks like it was wise for the U.S. to send naval assets to the Gulf. So, yeah, that's it. They're just reporting it. Wall Street Journal, the Iranian tanker attacks. That's it. And if you go to Google News, you now see today, Japanese tanker owner contradicts U.S., Trump blames Gulf attack. Gulf of Oman attack, captain shouts torpedo and dramatic distress call moments after mine explosion. That wasn't there. I refreshed this right before. So hopefully this will shed some.
All station. Motor vessel Hyundai Dubai, master is speaking. motor tanker front Altair in fire in position 25 degree, 25.5 north, longitude 057 degree, 22.8 east. Motor tanker front Altair in fire. As reported by master of front Altair, most probably torpedo attack. Vessel still loaded, tanker, risk of explosion. For all vessel in vicinity, keep clear CPA from motor tanker front Altair. I repeat.
So you did hear him say torpedo attack.
Position, latitude 25 degree, 25.5 north, longitude 057 degree, 22.8 east. Motor tanker, front Altair, in fire. All crew safely disembark. All crew of motor tanker, front Altair, 23 crew.
Oh, much better pictures here. But now these are safely underway. Again, I don't know. This is just, you see the crew and the owners of the ship contradicting the U.S. statement. Keep in mind that during this attack, the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was actually meeting with the Ayatollah in Iran to discuss trade and treaty agreements, and the attack occurs right then. Not one for conspiracy theories, but that looks so much like something that had been set up by a cartoon villain, that while you're meeting with the leaders, while the two leaders of a country are meeting, that you then have an attack supposedly from one side against the other, even though that country would have almost nothing to gain and everything to lose by having this attack. So I would suspect over the next few days you're going to see a heightened presence of U.S. military naval vessels in the Gulf, in the Middle East, as we ramp up our preparedness to have a war, bombing of Iran. I'm not sure, because yesterday's story I covered the fact that the Saudis are waging a war in Yemen against the religious group there, because most of these wars in the Middle East are between the Shia Sunni religious groups. That always comes up because it is generally the majority is attacking the minority, or in some cases you have the minority in power and then the foreign other governments then issue money, weapons, and then cause the overthrow of the government. There was a bombing a few weeks ago of an Iranian-backed, sorry, you can't see me do air quotes, of an Iranian-backed group from Yemen who are being killed en masse and run over by the Saudis in the current Yemenis war, who bombed some Saudi pipelines, and it became a huge issue because not that Yemen is at war being attacked by Saudis and Saudi-backed forces, but that someone from the rebel, quote-unquote, rebel group took it and attacked a Saudi pipeline. That, of course, brings the U.S. in, because we are now worried about strategic, let's just use the word, money in the region. And that brings in the U.S. to help out the Saudis some more to protect their assets, leaving them, moreover, to attack their neighbors. And now with this, because of the religious breakdown of the region, you now are starting to see, I believe you will now start to see a definite ramp up towards Iran in rhetoric and policy and in action, all leading towards the capitulation of Iran, because the U.S. has almost completely done away with the government of Venezuela. You have seen a lot of that come forth, where Venezuela is basically being starved out by U.S. sanctions. They're unable to sell oil. They're unable to import goods. They're unable to have trade arrangements. And those are some of my earlier stories. If you want to go back through my catalog and look for the Venezuela stories, I've tried to do a lot on that. And this is one where I believe we're seeing the escalation, and that escalation will happen regardless of what facts come out in the case. I believe the U.S. is 100%, the military complex, most media are going to push directly towards this idea that we need to attack Iran, we need to strangle Iran, as we're doing, of course, in Venezuela and have done in the past in other countries. I'm very much against this. However, again, I'd like to say please like, share, comment, subscribe. Typically, these videos don't get as much traction as some of the other stuff, but hey, I'm just asking for your opinion, and remember, you can always dislike the video because I'm not in charge of you. I just want to have the conversation. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.